Ant-Man and the Wasp is the sequel to Ant-Man, and it's directed by Peyton Reed, who also directed the first movie, and stars Paul Rudd, once again as Scott Lang slash Ant-Man, as he did in the first movie and Captain America Civil War. And in this movie, Scott Lang is on house arrest. He's in his last 3 days when suddenly he gets pulled back in to the world of sciencey things in the quantum realm, and all this stuff with Hank Pym and the Wasp, aka Hope Van Dyne, Hank Pym's daughter, of course, as they try to go back into the quantum realm to save Michelle Pfeiffer's character, who is the wife to Hank Pym and mother to Hope Van Dyne, of course. And it's a race against time movie where Scott Lang has to make sure that he's not caught, because he's not supposed to be out of the house, obviously, because he is on house arrest, while also dealing with this problem with the quantum realm, along with other baddies, and the main one being the Ghost. So yeah, that's our plot here. So as for the first Ant-Man, I think it's a great movie. I think it's a very refreshing look in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, one of the more refreshing efforts. It's very fun, it's very funny. I think Ant-Man and the Wasp doubles down on everything I did love in the first movie. This is a really great movie. One of the best of the year, honestly. It's got a lot of problems. Like, a lot of problems. Not a lot of problems, I should say, but definitely a handful of problems that do weigh it down and will make my grade seem more negative than it should, because I really did love this movie. But I am a critic here still. I still gotta judge the movie as a movie. Enjoyment comes, well, first, but enjoyment will overlap quality generally, and I think it does here as well, but I do have to acknowledge the negative things in the movie. So yeah, as for positive things though, there's a lot to talk about here. Paul Rudd's once again great. Evangeline Lilly's amazing in this movie. They make a great pair. Their comedic timing is on point. Their chemistry is really great, as is the chemistry with the entire cast. The entire cast is all great. Michael Douglas is even better here than he was in the first movie. He's given a lot more to do here, emotionally, and even physically, honestly. And the story here is much more engaging. It's much more exciting. There's much more urgency here, because it does take place within a very short period of time, and it's a very race against time kind of movie. And there's a lot of stress, and all that tension feels very palpable. You can really feel it. It feels really tangible. It's a very intense movie at times, but all for the better. I love a good race against time kind of movie. And yeah, so this is right up my alley. As I said, the story is much more engaging here. I was really invested in the story and the characters, and it's just so much fun. This movie is just so much fun. It's one of Marvel's most fun movies to date, for sure. It's definitely in my top 10 Marvel movies. Very unpopular opinion, I know, but whatever. My opinion, so what? But yeah, this is a really great movie. Like, it's so much fun. The action sequences are great. As I said, it doubles down on everything I love from the first movie. The humor is even better here. It's a hilarious movie, and it has just this. There's just so much fun to be had in this movie. It's one of the most fun movies of the summer yet. It's definitely up there with like Incredibles 2 for the most fun. It's really, really good. As far as how to see this movie, I saw it in IMAX 3D. The screening was in IMAX 3D. Would I recommend you pay full price for IMAX 3D? Not necessarily, but I don't think you're going to be missing out if you do. I think it is money well spent, but you don't have to. But I definitely would recommend you see this in 3D. Once again, you don't have to see it in 3D, but like I would recommend it. I think the 3D was really good, actually. And the IMAX experience as a whole was really good as well. So I think this is one you should see in IMAX 3D if you get the chance to, if you have the money. If you don't, just go see the 2D showing. It's just as good that way, I'd imagine. Still a great movie on its own, but the 3D does enhance the experience a little bit. Like, the action sequences are a little more eye-popping with the 3D. So yeah, let's get that out of the way. But no, this is a really great movie. I really love this movie. It has a handful of problems, though, I will say. The villain is pretty weak, the central villain. There's more than one villain, but the central villain's pretty weak. I didn't care about her motivations or her worries or her motivations. I really didn't care, honestly. She drags the movie down. She doesn't drag the pacing down. This movie's perfectly paced, but she definitely drags the movie down in quality. As does Walton Goggins, who has no reason to be in here. Him and his henchmen are completely unnecessary to the story. They go nowhere. There's really no reason to have them in this movie, other than just a random detour to cut to every once in a while. He doesn't grind it down or anything to a halt, unlike subplots in other movies, but he definitely didn't belong there. His villain's just really weak as well, and yeah, so those are my biggest problems with this movie. There are implausibilities and conveniences that are very out of left field and are really forced, and they shouldn't feel that way. They should feel natural, but they do feel like movie moments. So I had to mention that. It's a small problem, but it had to be addressed. I also think some of the humor does fall flat. It's mostly hilarious movie, but there are jokes that do fall flat, and I do think this isn't really a problem with the movie, but the after credits scene, not the one in the middle, but the one after the credits, is in the trailer, and you don't need to stay for that scene. So just letting you know. But yeah, so Ant-Man and the Wasp is a great movie. Not the post-credits scene as I just talked about. The mid-credits scene is something I predicted, but is really good. Definitely stay for that. This is just a really, really great movie. I am going to give it a B+, simply because I don't think it's the highest of quality of the MCU movies. It's still a really great and really well-made movie, don't get me wrong. But it does have problems, and I think it's one of my favorites of the MCU as a whole, but there are things that do weigh it down a bit. But yeah, so that's my review for Ant-Man and the Wasp. I'm going to have a Marvel ranked list coming up here. So yeah, look out for that. I'm going to rank all 20 movies. My rankings definitely changed. But yeah, so that's my review for Ant-Man and the Wasp. So, peace.